welcome to Coach Talk. I'm here today discussing relationships in this new season, and I have a really good guest of mine who is a really personal friend, and we train together. She's also a life coach and a teacher. Hi Nikki, how are you?
Hi Fahima, I'm very well. How are you?
Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
I really appreciate your time, seriously. I know you've been coaching as long as I have, and we've got lots to talk about.
Absolutely.
You decided on the topic which is overcoming different stages in life.
Yes.
And one of the different stages and changes in life that you're going to actually talk about is your transitions.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So, in relationships, we have a lot of life changes and a lot of stages that we have to overcome. And even though I'm giving awareness from other guests with regards to insights and awareness, I'm really, really pleased that you're going to actually share something really personal. You're going to talk about your actual experience and how it affected your relationship and what was the impact and the differences. So, can you explain a little bit more as to what exactly you're going to be speaking about in this episode?
Yeah, I just thought because I bring my own experience as a woman, as a wife, and as a mother in coaching. So I just thought that it's going to be a good idea maybe to bring my story with me today.
Yes.
So in terms of, as in transitions, I'm talking about, for example, in my case, it is moving country. So I left Greece, that was 8 years ago when I came here, and then I started a completely new chapter.
So basically, you're going to share your experience about moving country, and I think it is a big change just for an individual, like you said, but when you're a mom and a wife, and you've only got each other as well, because you've left everyone back home.
Yes.
There's no friends. I know there's a phone call and whatever, but it's not the same.
Yes.
When you're moving around every day in that new challenge. Now tell me, what were those, life-changing sort of, experiences through this transition that sort of maybe had an impact on your relationship?
Yeah. To be honest with you, when you decide to move, as I said before, even if you're ready to make the move, you never know what to expect. So you have to realize that there's a big part of you that is changing when you make the change.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
So you're changing, the other person might be changing, or one of you might change, the other might stay more or less the same. So then what happens and what changes in terms of dynamics is the issue, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So it wasn't an easy transition. It wasn't an easy thing, especially because I was always a woman, let's say, that was looking for something outside, was looking for something different to do, like in terms of job, for example. I found it very tricky originally. My first degree was in education, and when I came here, I struggled a lot to see what it is that I'm looking for, how can I enter education, what can I do, how am I going to do it, and that was building up frustration for me for a long time, because for a long time I felt like I'm not doing what my calling is.
What was your partner doing? Did he have a job to go to straight away as well?
Oh yes, my husband had a job to do straight away.
So you
which was
actually, moved because of him?
Yes.
Right, so you had to be the one to sort of find something again from the beginning.
Exactly.
Okay. So there was a compromise?
Yeah, there was a compromise, as it should be in relationships, to be honest.
Absolutely.
So he started working and I started working in a Greek school, only part-time then.
Yeah.
And as I said, it was tricky because my family was away. I was raising my kids with my husband by ourselves, and it was a hard job.
Of course.
Especially, as I said to you before, when me trying to really understand what is it that I'm looking for? What do I want to bring out there? What I'm really passionate about, let's say, and I want to share with my family and with other people outside of me.
So tell me about the experiences that you had, and what was the real challenge?
Yeah, the real challenge was, I think, mostly to balance my emotions originally at the very beginning.
What were the emotions that you were going
because
through?
There was frustration and anger from one side, and I really like to give this analogy. It's like you have a big suitcase where you actually pack and you fill it with different kinds of emotions when you decide to leave your country and go and live somewhere different. So this suitcase had insecurities, it had anger, it had frustration, it had
that was just
challenges.
From you?
I think it was mostly for me. It was
Okay.
mostly from
And
me.
did your husband pick up on that?
Yeah, I could say he did, because it was pretty obvious I was expressing those emotions. I was always actually questioning
Right.
the reason we decided to live
Yeah.
and come here and start a new life. Which, as I said now, reflecting back, it's a great lesson, it's a great experience, and regardless of where it's going to lead me and where I'm going to be after years,
Yeah.
it's still a big lesson. It's still an amazing experience.
Tell me about the lesson. What's the lesson?
So the lesson is that you learn a lot about yourself. First of all, you learn
Okay.
loads, and you learn things that you thought. Actually, let's put it this way: you had this idea about yourself. For example, myself, I was always thinking that I'm a person that is quite shy and reserved in terms of making the next step and questioning myself and not believing too much on my capabilities.
Right.
But after making the leap, the next step, and it was a big step, I realized that actually the things that I was scared of don't exist.
Yeah.
I had created all this picture about
Of
myself.
course, it's that-
and actually no,
yeah,
it's
story.
not true.
Yeah.
It's not true, because
Yeah.
the moment I exposed myself and I did all these
So
things.
it's your worldview, your beliefs, and all of those sort of values that you have within yourself, you know, it comes out to create a new identity sometimes, right? So as we know that transition is something that with relationships, did it really maybe teach you more about your partner, not just yourself?
Oh yes, because especially when you go through challenges, you test your relationship as well, isn't it? So you do learn a lot about yourself, and you do learn a lot about your partner, and your partner learns a lot about themselves as well, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
So then it's about sitting down, obviously, and observing all those changes that happen within yourself and your partner, and then come up with common goals, let's say, shared goals.
So you communicated
to
a lot
achieve.
about this, yeah?
Yes.
You communicate a lot.
Yes.
So there's many ways of communication, and there's also ways in which we communicate that a lot of us think, oh, communication, you know, but it's just verbal and we just say what we need to say. But there's a lot of emotion in those communication. There's a lot of feelings that, you know, come from it. How did you maybe balance, or did you figure out yourself more with those communications?
Communications is a very, very big thing, isn't
Yeah,
it, in
it is.
relationships? And
Yeah.
I find that
Just because you're saying something doesn't mean that it's okay now, and they're going to also
Exactly.
take it in the same way that you want.
exactly. And I think really, I believe that a big reason, one of the most important reasons that relationships tend to break is that communication.
Yeah.
Isn't it? So
People go silent, or they
Yeah.
say the wrong thing with the wrong
Yeah.
attitude and things like that.
Yeah.
And I know you also studied life coaching, like we did about almost 4 years now. So not just the transition, but do you think coaching has helped you be more self-aware?
Absolutely, yes. It was a big lesson for me, and I have to say that the moment after being obviously trained to become a coach, and you go through the process yourself,
Yes.
you realize you understand the patterns much easier, isn't it? So
Yeah,
you realize where you've
absolutely.
been actually, how you can handle the situation a little bit better.
Absolutely. People don't realize about coaching. It's so powerful, especially for your relationships. Even if you don't go for couples coaching, but just being coached through whatever issues, trying to find your way and, you know, fulfillment or whatever it may be, or
Yes.
whatever stages you need, you bring out so much more of yourself, which is so interesting for
Yeah,
an individual.
absolutely.
for an
Yes.
individual. So what normally goes wrong with, like, you know, responsibilities, or right with responsibilities in this transition that you went through?
I think what goes wrong is sometimes the fact that we tend to think to become mind readers. We tend to,
Okay.
and we're not naturally mind readers,
No,
human
no,
beings.
absolutely.
We're not,
That's
are
why
we?
the communication is key.
Yeah, exactly. And we tend to think that we know the other person much better than they do know themselves sometimes,
Okay,
which
the
means that we
expectation,
interpret
yes.
in a certain
Yes,
way
very true.
their body language or what they say to us. But actually what happens is that we need to slow down a little bit,
Yeah.
and maybe communicate in a way where we allow and we give the space to the other person in front of us to express who they are, and we can actually ask them questions. How are you feeling? Or become curious. And I think that part of that is the lack of curiosity, if I could say that.
That's true.
We're
because
not really
you assume,
curious.
we assume when you're in a
Yes,
long-term
exactly.
relationship, we think those habits are just going to continue forever.
Exactly.
But people do change, and their responses
Yes.
change, even if it is a habit.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to give this space, and you have to communicate. And I think we tend to communicate mostly when we actually inside a situation and we are struggling. And instead, what we can do is to talk more often and discuss potential problems that we might be having, and not only problems. We can
They're
just
trying
decide.
to balance that voice in the relationship as
Yes.
well.
Yeah. Exactly.
How has that worked out for you? Do you use
It
some of
was
the
a cha-
techniques in some of the coaching strategies that we know?
Now, at the moment,
Yeah.
of course. Now it's obviously completely different, but then again, it's about both sides to decide that they want to communicate effectively.
That's true. They
because
both need to
obviously,
want it.
yeah, you can't only one side do all the work and then the other side just
Absolutely nothing.
be passive and just
Let
listen.
things,
Yes,
yeah,
let things
and
go
leave
by.
it,
But
leave it.
but it is about both voices to be heard equally. Because we
Yeah.
have to think that the moment we enter a relationship, we have rights and responsibilities, isn't it? So we have to make sure that both things and from both sides are equally experienced in a relationship.
That's true. And being married, a lot of people now are moving away from marriage. They're finding it like a trap. They feel like, it's too much commitment, too much taken away from their identity, and they
Yeah.
cannot be themselves.
True.
Isn't that right?
It is right.
And it's a shame because I think we're not choosing in the right way, because again, we have to look back as to who we are, as to how we choose and make those decisions that's going to consistently be maintained over time, even with the different stages and development. And that's why I'm bringing the show sort of with this topic, because I think a lot of people are struggling. Even if they've been married for years or they've been in relationships one after the other, and they're making the same mistakes over and over again.
Yeah.
And it's really important that people do seek some sort of help outside themselves. People can read, fair enough, but I think coaching is powerful. It's really powerful to bring out who you are. And if you are in a relationship that's slightly problematic, or there's certain issues that are not being, aired out and you're not comfortable with, then relationship coaching does work.
It does. It does work, and I think it's really important to understand. The first step is really to understand where you are at the moment and where you're starting from. What's your starting point, and where you want to end
Instead
up.
of also reflecting too much, but you can reflect as a learning. But when you're just going to bring the past with fear and doubt, and also not wanting to, move forward because you're always in the past.
Oh yeah, that's a very good point actually, and I wanted to mention that because I think lots of people, we tend to really live our lives according to the past.
Yes.
So that happened, and it belongs to the past. The past stays the past.
Yeah.
It's a lesson we've learned. What can we do from now on? And in general, in relationships, I find that we tend to get stuck to
Yes.
things that happened.
Exactly.
History is history. So
put a
that's
rubber stamp and that's
exactly.
it.
But
That's
no,
it.
things change, and
Yeah.
if we want, we can change things.
Yeah.
We are evolving every day, and what works at the moment in a relationship doesn't necessarily mean it will work 3 months later or 5 months later. That's why I believe that it's really important to talk to the person we have in front of us, to share things, experiences, thoughts, feelings, everything.
Absolutely. And we have these certain assumptions, like you said, okay, there's one issue about living in the past too much, but then there's also this expectation as well in the future.
Oh, absolutely.
That outcome that we say that has to be, instead of, being in the here and now, having a plan.
Yeah.
If it works, but going through that journey and that experience in a particular way, having a different mindset, that growth mindset, and both has to have that growth mindset in order to meet in the middle, in order to develop and actually progress. You have to re-evaluate your relationship constantly. People
Yes.
don't work at it.
Yeah.
They give
Yeah.
up,
Yeah.
or they just don't know how to maintain. And the way to maintain, I find, is to constantly, whether it's monthly, 6 monthly, yearly, to go and evaluate, where are we now? how are we doing and what do we do next? And nobody does that unless there's an issue, unless there's an unresolved, sort of problem. And then it becomes like where resent takes over, and then irritation, and then anger.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's a build-up frustration, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And as I said before, it's really important to talk often with your partner, because this way obviously you can prevent things from happening and escalating and building up.
That's the thing. And when we're silent, it's so detrimental. It's so detrimental. Yes, it's good. I know a lot of people tell me to be quiet because I do talk a lot, but silence for me may work at times. But when you're in a relationship, you need to air out.
I think it's about balance, isn't it? At the end of the day, you just have to allow your voice to be heard, but at the same time, you have to allow the space for the other person to speak up and say what they think. And I really believe that questioning both yourself and your partner is really key. Then again, obviously, you might say to me, "Oh, I think that people question other people, but not in a very creative way," which you can find that as well. Or it looks more like a blame or like a judgment.
A judgment, absolutely.
But then it's about reflecting again on the way we do communicate and the way we do approach other people, isn't it?
So true. And I only also understood that point when I was training to be a coach. Because you don't realize your communication, how it comes across. And even though you know it, or you might have some sort of blurred sort of, indication as to, but the intention, I think it's important to have the right intention when you're coming to face your partner. And when you have the right intention, sometimes that language comes and shows. Like I feel, I don't know, but some people, but I feel I can sense people's text messages. I really can. I know that intention. I know it wasn't that right. Some people say that because I think intention, we have vibration, we have energy around us, and it does, sort of like have the other person feel that energy from the intention. So I think intention is really important. If you want to work at it, be 100% and work at it. Don't just come to counseling or coaching because it looks good or because it's going to be like for society or whatever it may be. People are not genuine. They need to be genuine, and that's when it works.
Yeah, I also wanted to say in this that I think people sometimes are not ready to make a change.
Yes.
Isn't it? And then we
change
have to
is scary.
think, oh, of course it is. And we're human beings, we're scared of changing things because we're using a certain way of dealing with situations.
Yeah.
We follow certain patterns. So breaking a pattern or a habit is really hard.
Yeah.
But it's really important if we realize that actually that can affect our relationship
in the long term if there's no change.
So again, communication is the key. You sit down, you talk to your partner, you decide together how you want to see things changing, what could be one part doing, what could be the other part doing. So, and then you decide what would be the best way forward, obviously. But as I said, change is scary, but at the same time is exciting.
It is exciting. People need to get a different meaning for change. They really need to. And they need to understand as humans, if we don't change as well, even if we're comfortable, that's what draws in dissatisfaction. That's what makes us, because as humans we adapt.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And when we get what we get, after a long time it becomes boring. So when this relationship is going on for years and years with the same routine, and with the same sort of habits, then it's ultimately going to get into a stage where maybe that fulfillment and that excitement does not exist. So when you change yourself and you develop yourself, I think self-development is so important because we need to in life. And it doesn't mean just at work. Look at yourself. You gotta take time out and look at yourself. So you had the challenge of transition and that woken you up. But there are people that are in the same country and they can still allow themselves to transition and to change because they're moving homes, they have different jobs, they have different circles all the time, and all of those sort of transitions does have an impact on your relationship.
It does.
It really does. So even though we've started off like with a real, leaving the country from one to another, transition and being by yourself and just as a family unit and that's it and nothing else, I think there's so many things that we go through in life that needs more awareness of knowing yourself and wanting to create the best version of yourself.
Yeah, I think you said the right thing actually, that the key thing, which is knowing things about yourself, because I think the moment you know things about what happens, sometimes we tend to think that we expect, for example, from a relationship to be a certain way, or we're trying to find compatibility with someone. But at the same time, if we sit down and think, what is it exactly that I'm seeking? Do I know what compatibility means for me?
That's
no,
true.
I don't. I'm just saying it in general that I'm looking for that, but
Because
do I
everyone
have
says
a deep inside to see what it is that it means for me? So it is a lot about questioning ourselves and working within us in order to bring the best in ourselves and our relationships, because I really believe that we can't change the other person.
No, you can't.
We can start from us, isn't
Absolutely.
it?
That's what people need to understand in relationships. They're always saying, we'll find that person, we're attracted to that person. Okay, these things, we're not going to like, but we can change it. Yes, certain things you can accommodate or you can compromise, but major things that there is a no-go. If there is a no-go on certain things, you cannot change it. You either accept it now or you don't, full stop, about that person.
True. Yeah.
A lot of people are, hoping to change other people by this, that, and the other, and then they create the story in their mind if they do certain things or they act in a particular way or behave in a particular way, and that can create change in someone else. But then you yourself is not being genuine and authentic, and it's also the focus on the other person.
Exactly.
Too much. To get a reaction from them, and then when it doesn't happen, it's all again, it's a story. It's a play in your mind.
And I think it's about setting boundaries as well within yourself and your relationship.
So important.
Because exactly. I think that it's important to set those boundaries so that they can be time limited, or it can be related to, for example, the act or something that happened from the other side. But be clear on what those boundaries are. I think
so
it's
from
really
this
key.
so far, we've realized that knowing yourself, which I've actually discussed in a previous episode, it comes back to the same sort of things. To know your identity, to have boundaries, to have communication, to want it, to really want it. In a relationship, two people need to want it. And when you want something, when there's a sense of urgency, you will do whatever you can to make it work. Mm-hmm. So what else could you add, as we come into the end of the episode, that maybe the viewers can learn from, your experience? I know we've spoken in general terms, but this is your true life story of transitioning, from one country into another. So what do you think that you would like to share, either something personal or just a general insight for the viewers to sort of take away?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think what I would like to say is the fact that we have to be open to any change that might happen, even can be from our side, can be in our relationships, it can be in anything. So we just have to be open and accept challenges that might come our way. We have to be open to embrace the change, and realize that actually there's nothing wrong with being different.
Yeah, that's the thing.
With our partner, there's nothing wrong with being man and woman. There's nothing wrong with bringing different stuff in the relationship. But it is about making this relationship work.
Work as a team.
And yes, as a team, have shared goals, have goals that you work together with your partner. But make sure that you obviously keep your identity within those goals.
Absolutely, and you still can. You still can. You can be who you are. You can live life independently, being in a relationship very healthily when there's respect and friendship with each other. And there has to be give and take.
Yeah.
And each partner is going to go through different phases and stages. And sometimes one is going to be stronger emotionally or whatever it may be, and the other one isn't. And they have to have that balancing act. And you've got to sometimes carry someone or catch someone. And it's okay.
There's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes it happens. So you're still married, right? So
I am still married. I have 2 children now,
yes. 2 children. And you moved countries.
Yes.
So, it is possible. Even though I coach couples that are going through issues, that's only 1%. I do see a lot of, successful couples, whether they're married or not, or in long-term relationships, whichever background it may be. They do exist, but the thing is, we pick on those minute statistics, which obviously it is increasing. So that's the reason why I have the show to, help those statistics stay down. But what I'm trying to say is, with breakups and things like that, we need to understand that we can live together, we can still connect, we can have successful relationships with the right mindset, with the right attitude, and you have to develop your knowledge. Don't just have the knowledge, use it.
Yeah.
So when you use this kind of information, whether it's in, psychology or understanding, human behavior, whatever it may be, we can really have really successful relationships. Isn't that correct?
It is correct, and it's about, as I said, being open and being happy to challenge yourself within a relationship, because nothing really comes as easy as we think it does, and relationships don't just flourish by magic.
Absolutely not.
You need to work in the relationship, and it's. I really believe it is exciting to.
It is exciting
to grow within relationships. So,
well, thank you, Niki. That was so much insight, and I'm sure we're going to help a lot of viewers out there to see a different perspective. And hopefully we will have you back again.
Yes, that'd be great.
So it was amazing talking to you.
Lovely talking to you as well.
Thank you so much for watching Coach Talk. And again, with my guest Niki, who's given us plenty of insight, which I hope is helpful to you to use in your own relationships. And we will be back with another episode of Coach Talk. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.